Namaste Galactic family, and welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. Come on into this dimension, guys. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notifications bell, and comment and share this video. Put a big like on this video today, and come on into this update. So much is going on right now. It's a very busy time, energetically speaking. It is pouring rain and thunder and lightning down at my house right now as I deliver this message to you guys. And honestly, I really like this weather. It feels super cozy and makes me want to stay in the house, makes me want to put a fire on, and honestly just kind of takes me back to my childhood a little bit. And yeah, so it's just a lot of clearing, a lot of cleansing. I like to think of this as like some Hydra weather. And if you know me, you know that I am a Hydra starseed. I consider myself to be an ambassador of this nation. And so I speak from a Hydarian, Ashlesha, Hydrobius perspective when it comes to bringing forth her story on a lot of things. And so, yeah, so much going on. And I also feel that living here down in southern Alabama in general, this is just like Hydra climate. This is Hydra weather, like super wet, a lot of rain all the time. And also, I just in general like being in a place that is kind of considered like an undesirable location. Because a lot of people will ask me, why did you move to Alabama? I'll kind of get that funny look, this, and that. And I just feel that this place is kind of a safe zone. It is when you're living in a state that isn't sought out by the Alpha Draconis real estate market, you're avoiding the inflation. And I'm just in a place where I think there's less infiltration by Willy Wonka and their agendas. You know, I'm not in an area where I'm having to deal with the degradation of the black grids and the harvesting of the indigos, as it's happening everywhere, but it's not happening to such a great degree here. There's no Trinity Gate sites here where they can, you know, pull people in for reincarnation harvesting and things like this. So it's just, I think it's off of the radar, so to speak. So any indigos that have been thinking about potentially relocating due to you know, any reasons of being infiltrated by, you know, Willy Wonka and their agendas, then, and just, yeah, inflation and things like this, it's good to look outside the major hustle and bustle zones of the United States and start looking more into the lands and areas where there's not as much of that. So what I've been noticing overall energetically is a lot of portals have been opening up to the WISA systems. I've talked about the WISA systems before. You can learn about this in the Voyagers 1 and 2 with Asha and Nadine. You can learn about it with Lisa Renee. You can learn about it at ascensionglossary.com, dictionary.com. You know, all of these different ascension books that you can pick up on. But essentially the WISA systems is code word for the fallen realms. It's code word for the shadow realms, the black hole systems, and all of the portals that, you know, connect into those. Essentially those have really opened up. And what I've been seeing come through is a lot of running of the artificial and the inverted flower of life codes. This is running waves of reversals basically through the collective. This has to do with the spirit body of the earth actually separating from the honeycomb hexagonal Tiamat matrix grid, right? And in between that, what can happen is there's an inversion of the flower of life that can come through, and it actually manifests through the mother arcing system. So for a long time, I've been seeing that as a metatronic parasite that is gooped up in the mother arcing systems. This is all a part of what is being generated from the Atlantean timeline, the Marduk and Maldek and Nibiru Earth systems and matrix templates. So inside the Earth, there are various degrees of these matrix templates. I'm going to kind of get into all of this today with you guys in this update, starting with the Tiamat grid. It takes time to design each one of these. So I've been talking about the Tiamat grid for quite some time with you guys. So I want to get into that one today, but I would like to be building a future series of videos that I talk about the next timeline, gridding templates and matrix templates. And that would be the Marduk, Maldek, and Nibiru Earth systems. And so it's a progression of designing these and kind of bringing forth the insight of this information. A lot of this has to do with old and unresolved Atlantean Aryan karmic wheels that are basically turning like cycles within the moon chains. So this has a lot to do again with those forced breeding programs, where it builds up like karma, right? Like sludge, like grease, like grime, like black goo. And that ultimately gets stuck in between timelines, and also in the karmic wheels of those collectively shared timelines, so that there's this greater karmic wheel that we all share. And so that's, you know, where this artificial flower of life is ultimately backing up the systems. I've been seeing all of this with a lot of clear visibility, the distortions of the parasitic metatronic energies and exactly where they're stuck inside the Earth's field. So I'm going to talk about that today because we are really in a very heightened time of energy. You may have felt the shift come through. It was very alchemical. It was hormonal. It was atmospheric. It was within the pressure of gravity. There was so much that was essentially shifting when we had this more of a finite collapsing of inversion codes that are well, basically running backwards. So it's might not be the best time right now to do things like channeling information from the astral fields, because we are at such heightened levels of astral warfare right now. Psychic attacks, okay, infiltration, possessions, incubuses, succubuses. And another thing that's going on that we don't talk about much, and this is turning on and off of scalar wave mechanics, right? So these are controllers that are in control of those greater grids, those greater over control matrix systems, such as the Apollyon system, the 4-quadrant hybridization system, the Nibiru system, that basically activate Draco and J seals to run inside the body, in the biology, in the spiritual body, in the auric levels and layers of their identity. And this basically runs misfortunes and setbacks and spiritual warfare attacks, and honestly also sickness, illness, disease. Okay, if you've been dealing with any injuries that are ongoing, okay, like this is all connected to these seals, and to the shifts of opening up more to the WISA systems and running anti-life architecture, flower of life architecture. This isn't anybody's fault. This isn't saying, oh, the world is bad and it's evil and nothing is good. No, these are shifts that occur as we progress through the ascension and descension processes here on this earth. So it's a good time right now to think about getting your seals removed if you haven't. And if you have, it's a good time to think about clearing and maintaining your field with continual revisiting of implant and seal removal within yourself. So that way you can keep your field from re-implantation of a very aggressive form of hijacking technology that's basically hijacked in the rods, okay, and in the rods of the earth. And that's where it's holding the encoding that is responding to global signals in the Earth's body that are triggering the 70 karmas to run on that 33rd parallel. So running persecution, slavery codes. Okay. I can't tell you how much slavery codes is probably the number one thing keeping people trapped in the Maldek matrix. The Atlantean matrix is the slavery codes. Holocaust codes are keeping people fourth dimensionally enslaved. Reptilian programs keeping people third dimensionally enslaved in this, trauma prison planet, which is what the Terra reforming is that takes place as we enter into particular timeline sets in the ascension processes. It's not always that. Okay, so we do transcend this. I want you guys to know that. And we do come back into maintaining and upholding the prophecy timelines, which is still always there. We just lose the sight of it sometimes when we are in the thick of the astral battles as those wormhole portals progress in their expansion. They gain momentum, I feel, due to the ablation to the metagalactic core that takes place. A lot of this is held collectively, also traumatically in terms of weight, in the eighth sphere of the universal tree of life, in the eighth collective shared monadic field that's basically holding the pins of this humanitarian predisposition of negative agendas. This is, I believe, where they originally installed the black hole technologies into the galactic planes, and ultimately into the Earth planes at particular locations, such as the Bermuda Triangle, such as the Statue of Liberty, Azores, Spain, Inishmore, Ireland, the Black Cube in Saudi Arabia, and basically rotten cave systems. Okay. Rotten cave systems all over the earth. Essentially like deep wells that are potent in like a respiratory toxicant, and they smell like rotten eggs that are just leaking up from the earth's body and the earth's mantle. These are really all over the world. Some of them are bigger and more notorious than others and have gotten themselves all kinds of names, such as the Devil's Well, the Devil's Hole, the Black Hole, things like this. But those rotten cave systems, I feel, do have connections to the nuclear, artificial radiation, and AI red wave spectrum consciousness that runs in the gas lines of the earth and pulls those up to smell rotten. We get to smell the rotten parts of the earth core. It's just a 3D reminder of what we are oppressing. But this does continue to further impact the integrity of the cosmological universal tree of life in the eighth sphere. So because of that, guys, it's just a time to be doing deeper, more powerful karma clearings if you can, entity removals, spiritual armor rebuilding, strengthening of our spiritual immune system, and connecting into nature and the organic earth bodies as much as possible, re-plugging those back in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you guys a list in the description of videos that you can refer to for everything from protection to clearing your field to karma clearing and strengthening your light body field. So that way, if you feel that you've come into the awareness that you're being affected directly or indirectly by these global distortions and these planetary shifts of energy, any forms of psychic attacks, any forms of infiltration, possession, that you have some tools available to use for restoration and rehabilitation, even a rescue mission for some, to repair anything that you may feel have been weakened or degraded by control mechanisms that do seem to feel outside of our control during these times. So it's kind of a really unfortunate thing. Many souls, many indigos, many star seeds from other systems that basically came here to this earth and answered this distress call. They came here and they did so in the contingency that they were, on a guardian host mission. They were on a rescue mission. And they essentially became trapped in the control matrix through the metatronic reversal coding running in those Earth bodies. So these metatronic reversal entities, they live for thousands and thousands of years, and they feed off of humanity. They have so much more knowledge of the starseed groups on the Earth than the starseeds do. And so there is a huge advantage. There is a huge capitalization off of their living energy. And, many people have been constantly harassed and repeatedly superimposed with karmic loads and metatronic code to keep them locked down and recycling in the earth plane as consciousness slaves. So again, relocating sometimes out of an area where you can escape some of that recycling infiltration is sometimes a good way to go in terms of your grid work as a starseed, right? Because you're encoded to that land. This is all, like I just said a second ago, prison planet technology that's being used. And they enforce this in so many ways. They enforce this through erasing historical records, running amnesia technology from TRONS in the Earth. So I talked about the TRONS in my CERN update, how these are, beast machines basically that are placated underneath the landmass to run, field modification, magnetic manipulation modification of our natural energy grids, and, degrade those systems and do processes of blank slate consciousness wiping. This is what they did in the Egyptian Sumerian timeline. I talked about this before, but essentially they had TRONS running then. They have TRONS running now. They just have a lot more of them now. And after they run the TRONS, then they run a series of post-hypnotic suggestions that are used to install false memories and false time orientation. Okay. The whole thing about the Draco seals that they install in the magnetic North Pole field is that they install it between you and the metagalactic core. Okay, the Mayans knew about this, and they were one of the only, civilizations that were able to fight off that Draco seal, basically, that disassociates other civilizations from galactic synchronization of time. So we would all be fifth dimensionally time aligned if we were able to all connect into the galactic synchronization of time. So that's what they do. They basically, mind slate you, blank slate you, and then usually install looking glass technology and through imprinting of subliminal codes, they can, create your reality basically for you to experience. And they are running and coding into the Earth's grid to do this at the Denver International Airport with that artificial swastika planetary branding that they have running on the runways. And also they have it at several military bases as well. And so, yeah, they just, it's all to run the artificial time codes, basically. And they do that also through rewriting history from the victor's perspective, and rewriting our calendars from the victor's perspective. They also do this through the system of debt-based currency used as our current global monetary system. This was all brought forth by the Alpha Draconis planetary system. So the idea that we're, ruled by a debt currency in which one has to pay for their basic shelter, food, healthcare from birth, that's considered a prison planet. And this also comes through the caduceus implant as well. I was speaking of that keeps getting reinforced. I keep seeing the caduceus implant and how that's basically running down the entire rod and staff. Like that is actually the separation of the rod and staff. And it's kind of considered the beast of the earth plug. It comes with the staff of Moses and the seal of Solomon. And that's where I think the caduceus goes right in between that. Again, it goes back to the eighth sphere because this is the Black Sun Orion groups, and these were and where is still where we have galactic prison camps that are basically being held. They have encoded this into the Earth's memory from Australia. It was a global core world mind swipe, you could say, and reinstallation of that hypnotic code. That's what came through the memory of Australia, right? When they hijacked the Dove grid, and installed the prison mentality, essentially. But they also reinforce this through, like I said, overlays, control grid matrices. They like to keep the electronic force fields that keep us within parameters of the control grid templates. So this is all something that I'm going to discuss more in the coursework. Course, I believe 3 and 4 of the Gridworker Facilitator course. That begins October 22nd. So if you are wanting to attend that coursework, you're going to want to sign up here soon, because class is actually going to start here in about 10 days. So we are really looking excited to launch the course and work on the first class. We're already putting so much together for the first class. It's going to be awesome, you guys. We're going over all gridwork anatomy, that first class, intro to gridwork, and it's just going to be really in-depth and detailed and just, yeah. So if you want to learn more about that, I will leave the links in the description. I hope that you come and sign up for the Gridworker Facilitator course. But the real news that I meant to get to. So some examples of why and how we can see these arcing sites that are under the Metatronic attack is when mother arcing sites and inner Earth gate sites actually are under attack. I'm going to show you guys this that happened. So this was news from about 3 days ago, I do believe. And essentially, the Easter Islands caught on fire. Okay, this fire had done irreparable damage to the site, and they say about 20% of its iconic carved stone figures known as the Moai were destroyed in this fire. The fire that was done was irreparable. I guess the Rapa Nui has more than 1,000 stone statues, giant heads that are believed to have first been carved in the 13th century by the island's original inhabitants, so original earth builders. And one thing about Easter Islands, guys, is this is definitely a Lemurian gate site. This is definitely a mother arcing site, and this is definitely an inner earth vortexual point into the second dimensional fields that ties into and connects into all 4 of those Lemurian light grid fabric templates, the 4 faces of man, Tara, and even future Earth. And so this is a location you can also rebalance the rod and staff here at this location. We can clear Metatronic parasitic energy at this location. So you can better believe there's going to be attempts to disconnect that Lemurian organic light field matrice back into humanity. These are all locations they can attack and sabotage the inner Earth connection and mother arcing sites from the Tiamat grid. They believe that this fire was not an accident. Okay, the local broadcaster of Rapa Nui says that this was a strategized attack. Okay. Well, we know that there are Metatronic Ascended Masters like Enki and Marduk and Tothi and Luciferians that want to basically distort these sites because of the energy that they hold, and they want to block this energy off. They cause damage. This fire caused damage that can't be undone. The cracking of an original and emblematic stone cannot be recovered, no matter how many millions of euros or dollars are put into it. They said that a park shortage of volunteers hindered the ability of officials to get the fire under control. The total damage to the site has yet to be assessed. The fire comes just 3 months after the island reopened to tourism on August 5th after 2 years of closure due to the La Cucaracha. Okay, this was one place that never really recovered. Okay, and now there's fire damage at this site. Because I was checking for plane tickets to Easter Island for a while, okay, and they have not been opened, you guys. This is the one place that never came back from the La Cucaracha. It has been closed off. And now there's a fire here, and I'm telling you, this is a pillar. Okay, this is a spiritual pillar on this earth that upholds the finite interconnection points into these special light templates. Okay, and so this is just one manifestation of these energy blockages and where these transformations are taking place on this earth. We can identify with all three of our eyes just by looking at this, right? Easter Islands holds second dimensional inner earth gate access. This is an integral part of the interdimensional links into the mother arcing sites and the womb worlds. So I'm going to show you the Tiamat grid now because this is what I've been meaning to talk about. And this is where this comes in, right? Because they're trying to cut off energy flow to a particular template. And let me show you what that is. And I've talked about this Tiamat core grid templating for a while. I've been seeing this for a while, that this is kind of where you would be going through those inner earth portals, right? Like if you were to be going to the core base template of the Lemurian timeline, or really not even the Lemurian timeline, like this is the core of creation timeline. This is, you consider this an inner earth structural planetary base one architecture. So this was installed at the time of planetary creation. What you see here is the core grid structure of the Seraphim core. This is the core light grid template geometry that upholds the previous three Lemurian light grid templates that I've spoken about in my previous updates. What you see is the inner core. So inside the hexagonal honeycomb, that would be considered the access to the halls of Amenti, the hall of records. The reflection of the universe can be seen inside that space, and it is essentially the superconsciousness field of the planet. Then we have the hexagonal honeycomb. That is the actual Tiamat matrix. Okay, so that honeycomb that you're seeing there, that's the 5D inner body of Earth. Okay, and then what emanates around that is the flower of life. So this is the cosmic heart pulse from the point of all union that creates life on Earth. And this is not the inverted daisy of death, anti-life, flower of life, artificial flower of life codes. This emanates the true, you could say, Christic emanations or spirals that represent an open eternal system, essentially. Now, the Tiamat grid templating upholds the Earth's core spiritual body from dimensions 5 to 10. So Tiamat herself is a living avatar goddess of the 10th gate on planet Earth, and she rules over Stargate locations formerly known as Sumeria, which is now modern-day Iraq, but her energy culminates in front of the Sphinx, where there is the largest planetary feminine portal vortex on the Earth. And basically, she maintains this spiritual governance at all the mother arcing gate sites of the Earth, locations like Uluru in Australia. And, you know, Easter Islands is one of those. There's more Bali. There's a lot more. But essentially, the Tiamat grid templating was moved up in dimension after the seeding of the Marduk grid templating, which was done through Force and Lunar Celestial Wars. So what you're seeing right here is the old universe. This is old Earth. Like, this is the original Earth. Like, this is what was left of her body parts that you're seeing here. The Marduk grid templating is an Atlantean timeline holding inner Earth structure for the mental bodies of the fallen architecture on the Earth. So there is a battle of interlays of these templating. Okay, this deeply goes into the beginning of the history of Tiamat, essentially. I'm going to go into a little bit of Sitchin's work when I talk about this. I'm going to refer to the Cosmic Code, page 70. So if you want to actually look it up, I'll put it down in the descriptions as well. But essentially, I know many people don't like Sitchin's perspective and blah, blah, blah. I don't really care because um I can see the foresight. I can see that many scholars were birthed and actually came forth because of Sitchin, such as Gerald Clark, such as T.J. Hegland, and people who have then gone and been inspired to, um, interpret the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Um, I feel that he is kind of like the grandfather of inspiration, of bringing forth an extensive body of work that has brought forth knowledge from the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. And essentially, most of the things now in modern ascension times, books that have been written, have been scholared from the inheritance of the works that Sitchins has brought forward. So it doesn't matter. I don't care what people's opinion are, unless you've read the books yourself and have vetted that information for your own interpretation. A lot of it's just hearsay of what other people say and like a rumor mill. So just keep that in mind when, you're judging literature. Another aspect of it that I don't really like is that Sitchin essentially, it's from a patriarchy perspective, right? It's not like we've had any female scholars that have came and decided to decode the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. So, I mean, I wish that would happen. That's where I would probably be most interested is from a female perspective. But um, because this is what we have to go off of, it's really an in-depth interpretation from, I guess, a Sumerian or a Babylonian perspective of the core of creation, right? And where this all kind of began. Tiamat itself came from a Babylonian story. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind as well. Like it was something else before that and something else before that, but this is when her name actually came into existence. So, I mean, I think it's good to dive into this to get this perspective on the Tiamat. So if you understand Tiamat, you're connected to Tiamat, you feel energetically, spiritually connected to Tiamat, which most of us who are carrying these primordial seraphim codes, dragon codes, serpent, primordial mother codes, all of these things, right? The original progenitor races, we are going to be connected to Tiamat. This is the extension of her seraphim body. And so this is basically a structure that we uphold in our own fields. So I had to give my rebuttal on that just a little bit because there's a lot of Sitchin naysayers, and I really encourage you to go check out his literature on Tiamat. Just the Tiamat portions of it is extremely extensive. But I'm going to kind of recap here. So he says, in the beginning of the original universe, which was the original universe, was different from what we have now. In the beginning of planetary history, there were only Tiamat, which existed between the Sun and Mercury. It was only these three planets that ruled. Tiamat had 11 moons. Okay, the largest moon was King Su. This moon was so large, he became a celestial god. This moon carried the Tablet of Destinies, which is a planetary energetic artifact that which bestows great power upon its holder. You could actually wear it as a breastplate. And so eventually this Tablet of Destinies was given to the Anunnaki and taken by, I believe Enki or Enlil or something like that. And they took that and stole it from the moon, basically, is what happened. And there is actually a lot of bloodshed that has been divulged over this particular Tablet of Destiny. I might get into that later. I might not. But it goes into Anunnaki history to understand that one fully. But it was the invader who was Marduk, which is believed to actually be Nibiru, and that these were one and the same. And Tiamat was the mother of the previous solar system. And the creation of Earth was believed to have been born from a great planetary celestial body that occurred. And it was from the moons of Marduk that imploded, curved, and collided into Tiamat's body. And Tiamat was essentially eliminated as a member of our old solar system. So it's always been universal celestial planetary war between a celestial god fighting a winged monster. the dragon was always called Tiamat, and it has been about a war between Marduk versus Tiamat. This is how our planetary creation came about. Essentially, Marduk's moon split Tiamat in half, and the lower parts of her smashed into bits and pieces and became what is called the celestial bracelet, our asteroid belt, which is orbits around Jupiter and Mars. This also contains fragments of Marduk's moon and some of Marduk's body as well, created with Tiamat's. The celestial lunar battle of the moons and Tiamat have everything to do with what created the moon chains. So forced breeding programs, right? This is about conquering the original feminine body of the earth. And it's a battle of memory from these wars held in the moon. Okay, so this is why we have so much disillusion over the moon and the purpose of the moon, all of these things, right? Because it was the battle and the warfare of the moons that is tied energetically to what actually created the earth. And so through that, Tiamat became the core that created the earth and brought forth the seed of life that emanates the organic flower of life. So now what you see with this hexagonal shape here, this is the hexagonal crystals of Tiamat seed codes. Okay, these are said to be held at the base of our spine and our fetal crystal cells, where we can refine the crystal body from the blossoming of the point of our creation, from the honeycomb crystals in our field, which are the fetal crystals. Okay. That's where we can actually go to restore the Tiamat templating within our body, is go down to the base of the spine, restore the fetal crystal hexagonal honeycomb cells. Now, all of this matters so much right now because Tiamat's destruction directly correlates with the destruction of the Sophianic body, which is what we're talking about when we're talking about these mother arcane systems having metatronic parasitic energy in those systems. And Tiamat's flower of life was implanted the metatronic parasite. So the parasite exists in this template. And because of that, there have been forms of her that have descended into lower collective forms of the female body. This is wounded female archetypes, such as Medusa's body and severed head or body parts of the Sophianic dragons. It really has a lot to do with severed female parts, an ongoing dismantling of her parts to pervert, invert, and clone her sacred image, energy signature, and Holy Spirit for satanic agendas and alien creations of a dark mother. This comes through the monumental amounts of forms of hijacking of the womb. There is actually a video game in production that is coming out soon called The Naga Eater. In the intro to this video game trailer, there is a man reclaiming the severed heads of women. It's pretty gruesome. I just watched it the other night. So this energy is becoming somewhat activated about reclaiming these dragon parts, right? Reclaiming the parts of the Sophianic dragon body and reclaiming the Tiamat grid templating. The invaders like to keep the severed parts of the female heads or severed parts of the Sophianic dragon body areas and locations of the dragon nodes. So one of the places that they do this and that they keep Medusa's head is at the Vatican. This is a high-powered dragon node. So they like to keep that there as a symbol. This is definitely parasitic. This is what is plaguing and blocking the flower of life, is this parasitic invasion. And some of you may be aware of that invasion more so when it comes to the artificial flower of life and the differences between the lotus flower of life and also the metatronic flower of life. And so I'm just going to give my kind of opinion on what I think it is, since I'm not actually displaying the metatronic implant in this grid template. But what I feel, and I'm probably going to define this at some point in future updates, but it will be about a Marduk templating, right? Because parts of Marduk's body actually came and created another template in this Earth body that brought forth the Atlantean timeline. I do feel that that artificial flower of life runs from the core structures of the Marduk templating versus the Tiamat grid templating, if that kind of makes sense. So this is like a fifth dimensional templating. The Marduk templating would be a third dimensional grid template inside of the Earth, emanating a artificial flower of life structure around and through the crystal lotus flower of life templating, right? So it's running the anti-life simultaneous to the fractured portions of the Sophianic dragon body that's running the actual. So I think why it's so overpowering is because we are trying to rebuild the structural body of the Sophianic grid templating that hosts the pure flower of life, if that makes sense. And so the fragmented artificial life is essentially superimposed over a organic structure that's missing the dragon parts, basically, and we're having to rebuild that template. This is what it looks like if it is actually and completely fully restored. This is how it would look in its most innate, natural, and healthy state. And this is supremely the core of creation template that would then build off of Lemurian light grid template 1, dove grid template, and then swan grid template, building those future template prophecies into new Earth. Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this update for today. I will probably expand off of this at some point. I may also talk about it in the course as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. Please check the description for links to the Gridwork Facilitator course that's starting October 22nd. Please be sure to reserve your spot. Check out links below for all of the videos that I offered for healing, protecting, sealing your light body, repairing, doing karmic clearings, removal of entities, all of these things that we're needing to work on energetically at this heightened time. And I'll probably do another video on this Tiamat grid. This is just kind of me getting the information out and running through it as best I could, but I think there's more to this over time, and I'll just keep cranking things out as they come through. And thank you so much for watching today. Love you all. Take care. Namaste, and have a beautiful everything.